Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to segment 3, screening across ages. Now you know what is screening and you know the difference between screening, assessment, evaluation, all of those terms that we talked about. Now let us see how you would screen persons suspected to have specific learning disability, say across ages. So you have already gone through the module that tells you what is specific learning disabilities. Now specific learning disability, as you see, is a disorder in their information processing. We have done that graph, the input to output through the processing, you have already seen that. So there is some blockage either in the attention, perception, memory area. So despite sensory organs being right, they can have problems when it comes to their learning and contextual output. Now this involves understanding or use of spoken and written language and doing their mathematical calculations. And common sense tells you that this is not something that you can find out very early in the life of the child, because all of these reading, doing mathematics happen only when the academics begin in children. So usually these children get identified only when they are into the preschool, the amber lights begin starting to suspect, and then gradually when the child has difficulty learning, then you worry more about them. But it will, whether attended to or not attended to, the condition persists through the lifespan of the person. Now early signs, as I said, we cannot really get the early signs because academics do not begin that early and the problem are linked to the academic learning. But here are some symptoms that you can, do not label them, but you can suspect that the child may have a problem. So enjoys being read to, but shows no interest in letters or words. Usually you read it for me, the stories, the children would say, but they do not show interest in the letters and numbers. Some children can have, the parents may say, does not listen at all, how much ever we say he is not listening, does not pay attention. Or you are likely to hear parents saying that he has difficulty doing the very fine motor activity due to motor perception issues, not motor issues in them. Yeah? And then bumping into objects, bumping into things, just because they do not perceive that for me to go through this place I need this much of space, they do not perceive that. So even if the space is less, they tend to bump into it and they tend to fall down and get hurt, again to do with the perception. And when the ball, kicking and throwing ball, when the ball is thrown towards you, when a person is standing there and throwing, I know I have to adjust myself to be here to catch it. So that I perceive even before the ball comes to me when a person is throwing. So I prepare myself. These children do not have that capacity to prepare themselves and perceive, if thrown from a certain end with a certain angle, what will be the direction and force, and therefore how I should prepare myself to catch the ball. They are not likely to have that perception. You know, in advance think and get ready. So many a time parents tend to tell you that he is not so good with the playground skills. These are risk factors, again, do not be in a hurry to label him, oh he has 2 of these or 3 of these, he is, oh my god, he is SLD, do not do that, no, these you have to watch out. Now in early screening, what do you generally focus? You tend to focus on the children's cognitive factors, that includes their concept formation, memory, attention, perception that we have seen earlier, problem solving. At that age, the problem solving, simple things like there is a little toffee, there are 2 cups, you put it under, in front of him you put it under 1 cup, you wrote mix them up and you tell him to take his toffee, how he reaches the toffee by checking on which katori it is under, this kind of problem solving. So, age appropriate problem solving, not a huge problem solving. Speech and language communication, is there a meaning in what he says, is the sentence structure in order, or how he goes. Sometimes there may be words, there will be the noun and the verb that they say, and you have to understand it perceiving the rest of the sentence. So, many a time you may tend to have this kind of issues in the children, or use of language in terms of receiving and expressing. You tell him to do a thing, he asks for it to be told once again because he has not understood, perceived it, or he wants to say a thing, he wants to say there was an accident on the road, but to say that he has a lot of filler, there, no, I saw that truck hit, he is not, he has those little words coming and you see that he is getting the picture of accident on the road, but he is not able to put it in words, and he tends to have a lot of filler words and tries to express. Yeah. So, these are certain things that will alarm you. Do not label him, I am repeating every time, but we have to watch out for this. Then the pre-literacy skills, pre-reading, pre-writing skills. So, awareness, the sound S originates from the letter S, the K sound comes from letter K or letter C followed by A, O or U. So, this kind of a sound awareness in the child, interest in books, scribbling, drawing, the fine motor coordination, trying to fill color within the line. So, these are some of the pre-literacy skills you may find in very early ages in children that you will watch out if the child is not developing it right. Similarly, the quantity awareness, one plate having more biscuits and the other one having less, and then asking him to take from the one that has more or take from one that has the less and see how he is performing. These are little things that will tell you, or in his course of talking the child uses more, less, far, near, up, down, tells you whether he is doing okay or not so okay. Yeah. Motor functions, gross motor, fine motor, we have talked about it, and social emotional play behaviors, how does he interact with other children, he tends to be a loner, he tends to be a grabber, he tends to be a cooperative player, all of these things tells you a lot about his own self-regulation, following rules, interaction with others. These can be many a times specific learning disabilities can have secondary issues in social behaviors. So, it will be something that you will be able to see. These are informal measures and you tend to do all of this in the natural environment of the child. You are not making him sit and do all of this as listed above and find out. Even the checklist that you saw in the earlier segment, it is not necessary you sit across with the child and keep ticking. You observe him over a period of time and then you have known him, then you sit and tick the ones that are there. So, the natural environment is a very important keyword that we have to keep in mind when you do the screening. Here we differ from the doctor, where the doctor puts it on the couch, in no time he looks at us and gives us the prescription, whereas we have to do it over a period of time, right. So, there are a number of tools again commercially available on the net. If you go just say early screening tools for specific learning disability, you will find a whole lot of them. Some are free download, some are at a cost, and our own Indian tools, if you wish, you can get whole lot of it. This is one that you have from the National Council on Learning Disabilities from abroad. It is a very comprehensive tool with 25 items. You may want to have a look at that. And you have challenges in early screening, because we can't arrive at a diagnosis, as I was telling earlier, because the children have not yet started with the reading writing activity as such. Number two, you know that the brain development is very rapid in early years. By the time the child is 2 years old, 70 to 80% of the brain is already developed, and the development is continuing faster in the early ages in comparison to the later ages of the child. Therefore, clear diagnosis you cannot do, and he may catch up, maturation, and the child may catch up. So, this is one that early screening cannot lead to a firm diagnosis. Nevertheless, work with the child, this is important. Whatever, do not worry about the diagnostic label, his name is his label, remember that, and just work with him as a human being with whom you are working, that is very important. Literacy, numeracy skills are still emerging in them, maybe cognitively the kid is doing well, but motor wise he is still emerging or vice versa. So, at that point of time do not judge him by his coloring outside the line, oh he can have LD, do not do that, no, do not do, it's again a thing to consider. And then many a time we find the tests of Western origin, multilingual nature of our country. So, right away every child cannot be tested with the ABCDs all the time. We need to have the Tamil script, Malayalam script, Kannada script or Hindi script or Gujarati script. There also there are visual perception issues, auditory perception issues. We have Indian languages are very phonetic. We have all our vowels getting converted into matras and then they go and get attached to the consonant and they are constant after that. If you make a k letter and for that if you have the matra for E sound, that is ki, when it make, that matra is always the same E ki matra, that matra does not undergo change, E. So, long vowel there is a matra for it. Every Indian language, I do not know about Urdu to talk about it, but most of the Indian languages you find that the vowel letters convert into matras and attach to the consonant letter to produce a certain sound and stay so. Whereas in English it is not so, the vowels remain vowels and long vowel short vowel differences we have in our matras to make a sound, e sound, u sound, each one has a particular matra that we use. English, when you say, take this example, look, yeah, it is a short vowel u, look, whereas when you say boot, same double O you are using, but the double O become long vowel u. When you say look, the u is a short vowel u, same double O. So, like that in English they are different. So, the way you go about with your looking at the child for his processing also will differ. The kind of errors we generally find in Indian languages are leaving out matras, omission errors are higher in number, or k, k, g, g differences are there in some of the languages. So, children, Indian languages, so tend to replace a k for a g or a t for a d. So, that kind of errors, auditory perception errors. So, these are things that we need to look into and we have that as a challenge in front of us. So, just with English and English screening tools, we may not be heading far. We need to have our own tools. Now, when it comes to the primary level, the first alarm that the children are likely to have will be the teacher. We have talked about it. The teacher will be alarmed at the child's poor performance and the teacher finds a gap between the expected performance and his actual performance. Curriculum based assessment, we spoke about it, and we have currently in India the given situation, a number of NGOs in all over the country are trying to work towards helping support for children at this age. Secondary level worries lead to how will he pass his board exam. This is the problem the parents tend to have. So, secondary level we do have certain certification procedures in our country and the provision for selecting the what curricular area and evaluation system that could be. We are going to do it in little more detail in the next segment and certain tools are also evolving. Again we have people working. So, this, the provisions are made, but these provisions that are made in curriculum and evaluation systems are also not very uniform all over. There are assessment teams and again the team scales are not uniform in calling the child as having an issue. Then the nature of the condition is such that many a time misdiagnosed to some of the behaviors seem like that of a child with intellectual disability. So, that poses challenges. There is not adequate qualification and expertise in the country right now. Recently we have it added in our act, otherwise we did not even have it as part of the act of disabilities so far. And right now the situation is we do not have very clear directions on how to go further. Now looking at adults, usually as I told you earlier, whether they got help or they did not get help, they continue to grow up, become adults and do what they can do to survive. Many a time historically you look back and retrospectively find out from them, you find that many of them dropped out of school midway, some of them managed to go somehow up to class 10 with a lot of struggle, or class 12, then get into courses that have more to do with hands and less to do with reading and writing, getting into some technical courses and things. And many of them among us are there, married, living, but they continue to have their specific issues, like reading a board is difficult, but they are intelligent. As we know, all the people with specific learning disabilities are intelligent. So they have developed their own compensatory mechanism. If there is a board to be read or letter to be read, take somebody's help and quickly read it. And many of them have now told, when I talk to them, this MS Office has made their life much easy because of the corrections that they do when they have to write a letter. It helps them with green and red underlining, so that they know this has to be changed. A right click simply helps them correct the sentence. So yes, they are among us, they are struggling. I won't say they are all happy. Many of them have the secondary social issues also, social interactions, because they constantly are aware that I have a little difficulty in comparison to others in doing things when it comes to handling symbols, reading, writing and or mathematics, and that awareness gives them a lower self-esteem, though they may be good at many other things. And there are many successful persons with specific learning disabilities where what they do every day does not consider the reading writing capacity requirement so much, but it is more of their other multiple intelligences that you would have done in some other module. One of them makes them better than any one of us, or we look at them with an awe at their music, at their cooking, at their whatever many things that they tend to do, and the specific learning disability does not get into the surface at all. Bottom line is, it is difficult for them to cope with the situation. Many of them come out successfully, many of them do not, and they continue to seek support or resigned attitude of this is what is life all about. Yeah. What do you see in them generally as symptoms in them? When they are married, when they have their own children and the children say, Papa read this for me, Mama read this for me, they struggle reading even the preschool level books and they feel ashamed. This we have seen many of them having, or helping the children with homework. They tend to feel that I am not able to do what every father or mother will be doing for their children. Easily some of them can get distracted or annoyed. They have difficulty managing time, because time spatial temporal relationship is an issue with persons with specific learning disabilities. So time management becomes an issue. I will finish all of which will normally take 2 hours, they are likely to say I will finish it in half an hour and come, and they may not be able to finish it in half an hour and they do not realize they will not be able to finish it in half an hour. Difficulty in reading office circulars, doing calculations, write small notings, and many a time not reading things correct, mispronouncing, not very good with their, not elegant in their motor movement in carrying themselves. Some of them can have, can be told, he never listens. It is not that he does not want to listen, it is him with this specific learning disability in him, but then they can be accused of being not a good listener, may have difficulty matching the face to the name. See, face is a visual input and name is an auditory input, think about it. And the visual input and the auditory input should go in together and blend and then store to remember a person with his name. And you and I have problem, yes or no? Many a time I have seen him somewhere, I am not getting his name, do we do it or not once in a while? But think of a person with specific learning disability, how difficult it will be for him, and how socially he will be feeling uncomfortable in a situation that he knows the person, but he is not able to recall the name. Yeah. So this helps us empathize, it helps us understand what they are going through When we see once in a while, I also tend to have it. As we said earlier, seeing a pattern and consistency and frequency makes them stand out from among others. Otherwise, many of these things that you have been seeing in this module, once in a while you think even I have this, isn't it? Yeah, but ours is less frequent. The frequency and intensity makes them stand out as having a difficulty requiring support. And they have difficulty also remembering directions because they have right left orientation issues in them. So, directions is difficult, instruction remembering 4 instruction going together, if the memory is not so strong, first 2 drop off, last 2 only they tend to remember. So, recall of conversations, events in a coherent manner to put together and bring out what a serious brain process happens. Think about it, you have seen something, you have absorbed something from what you have seen. So, the vision has taken it, also the auditory component if there is a conversation, then you have attended to it, then it goes into your perception and it has made meaning to you and you have carried it with you. Then you go home and narrate it to somebody. The whole process that has happened and what has been stored here has to come out in a coherent manner to describe what you have seen. This is the long process that happens, that all of us easily narrate something that we have seen, or we miss out something when we say also. What we think is important only our memory would store. Everything that you see like a photograph, it won't store. For me, what I have seen there is significant, I tend to carry it and then I go and pass it on to another person to whom I want to talk about it. A person who is having a specific learning disability also goes through all of this. So, sensory channels have to carry, the attention has to fall in place, then make sense of what is happening there and take what you want to take, store it in your memory compartment, keep it there, take it to where you have to take and reproduce it to that person. See how difficult it can be when there is a problem in the processing. Yeah. For adults also, go on the net, you will find a lot of tools, and this is one of the tools that you may find very useful and helpful. In India, I do not remember having seen exclusively tools for adults so far. It will be coming in perhaps, and we will do the take a break, think about it, we will do the next segment.